Hey everyone, how you doing? Hope wherever you are today you are having an awesome day, keeping well, and most of all enjoying your mining, if that's what you're doing. So today I am going to make a start on my Ravencoin build rig. Ravencoin has been going mental. It's been doing awesome. Got up to nearly 19 cents. I think at the time of writing this video it's back down to about 15 or something, but doing pretty good nonetheless. And with all the light hash rate cards that are around, in fact they're some of the easiest cards to get a hold of now, and they're great for Ravencoin, so that's what this build's going to be based on. I managed to get a hold of half a dozen of these, the Gigabyte RTX 3060s, the overclock edition. I still don't know what that's supposed to mean. They seem to be putting that on all the cards at the moment. Everything's overclock edition. I mean, you overclock them anyway, right? So anyway, this is a card here. Pretty good looking little card. Longer than the 1660 Supers that I used on the last build, but a little bit thinner. So if you're looking for a card that can squeeze into a tight space, it's probably quite a good candidate. You can see there it's no wider than the 2U in the 2U front panel. So pretty good slim card. 3 fans. Pretty nice looking heatsink behind there, and I'm not sure yet, but I think these may be RGB lighting in here, if you're into that kind of thing. Looks pretty, I guess, but looking forward to seeing how those go. And then for power, we're doing RM650 Corsair. That's going to be for powering the motherboard and accessories. This is the motherboard here. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you know this poor motherboard's been in and out of more rigs than than it would probably cares to be, but it's still doing well. And so this was originally in the 8 GPU build that I did, and then we tried to max it out all the way up to 12 GPUs and found that the limit was 10. Most I could get it working with, that was 10 1660 Supers we got working with this, and it was doing well. But I since got a 12 slot board, and if you look back at my last video you'll see I've got that all up and running, the 12 GPU rig, the Ethereum rig, so that's doing well. So this board is spare now, so I thought it's probably the perfect board for this project because it's only going to have 6 cards, so it should be fine. Having said that, these cards probably use a few more lanes than the 1660 Supers do. They only need 4 lanes, so we'll see how that works. It should be fine. Put them down to 1 time speed, that's all we need for mining, and I'm sure that'll be right. So what else have I got set up? Got a few screws, all the screws for the cards. Got my cords organised, got my risers. These are the same risers that I've used before. The PCI 64P N09 V009S-Plus. So they got your 6-pin connector, 8 caps on there. And then we're going to need one of these because one of the slots is going to have 2 connections. So it's only a 5 slot board. It's actually a 6 slot board, to be fair. If you remove this heatsink, there's another one of these, an M.2 slot, and it's PCIe compatible, so you could take off the heatsink and put in one of these guys. You could put one of those in, and then that would make it essentially a 6 PCIe capable board. But there's a precursor to that, and that is that on this particular board, this slot here only works if you use an 11th gen CPU, which I don't have. I've just got the 10th gen one, and so if you run the 10th gen CPU, this is disabled and can't be used. So that's okay. We've got a spare one of these, so that will do the job, I'm sure. I've used those before and they work totally fine. I had that same board running with 2 of those with 10 cards in it, and it works sweet. So I'm happy with that. That'll be good. So yeah, so we've got our risers organised, and for power for the cards. So these obviously are a 30 series card, albeit the smallest of the 30 series, but they still use more power than the 1660s. And also Ravencoin uses more power than Ethereum to mine, so it's probably going to end up being about 100 watts per card from what I've seen. We'll see what we can do with that, but probably about 100 watts per card. So on this build I'm going to try one of these. This is an HP server power supply, 1200 watts, platinum. These are a lot cheaper than the ATX power supplies typically, although they have gone up in price since everyone's been using them for mining. They used to throw them away. I remember at work we'd be decommissioning old servers and we'd throw dozens of them away. Gutted. I didn't hang on to them because they easily sell for a couple of $100 each now. And then you can get these breakout boards that this one's got 12 connections on it, and I've got a bigger one coming that has I think 17. And then the cables. So these are the ones that come with the breakout board. We'll see what they're like. 6-pin on one end and then 8-pin on the other for the card. And then these cards, luckily, just a single 8-pin. So obviously when you get into the bigger 30 series cards, the 3080s, 3090s, you need 2 8-pins, so you need a lot more cables. But that should be sweet. So I think that's all we need for now. This is the frame. Again, this is the one that I'm reusing from the original 8 GPU build that I did, the very first rig build. And still fine, this little frame. So that should do the job pretty nicely. So we'll get that all buttoned up, and then we'll come back and we'll see how it looks. Okay, so that's the 650 watt ATX power supply and the motherboard screwed down, and now it's time to fit the server power supply. So what I've done is I've just put some double-sided tape on the back there. That's that kind of spongy stuff. And then this guy is going to go here like this, and then it's quite handy. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a couple of small lugs here where that would have clipped into the slot in the server. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to push that up against there, and then that'll give us just a little something to hold it up against the rig chassis there. So that should work quite well. And we'll stick that down, and then the cables will even be in the right place to run around the back and onto the GPUs. So that should work out quite good. The other good thing about the server power supplies is they're so compact. I mean, that's 1200 watts right there compared to one that's half the wattage, and it's quite a lot bigger. There's pros and cons to anything though. These are louder, so we'll see how that goes. You've only got this one fan cooling the whole thing, but it's platinum, so more efficient as well, less power wasted due to the efficiency, and Also, because it's server grade, you can use the whole capacity of the power supply rather than just your typical 70 or 80% of an ATX supply. So they're more efficient. Okay, great. We'll come back in a minute. So we're ready to start on the cards now, get them on the risers and get them onto the rig. So I thought I'd unbox one of these for you guys. It's a fairly basic, really entry-level 30 series card, so there's nothing too flash here to see, but that's alright. We'll open one up and you can just see how they come packaged. They do come really well packaged, all these cards. There's not too much to worry about them getting wrecked in transportation, I think. Not easy to do with one hand. Sorry about the crackling noise. So there you go, there you have it. Interesting, I've just noticed I hadn't already opened that card, but it looks like the packet has already been opened, so that's something to look out for. Because somebody might have been into that. This is just something to bear in mind. The card looks to be fine, but what I will do is I will put that card aside and test it separately, just in case there's something wrong with it and it's been returned to the store and then got mixed back in with the stock, with the supply, and it could be faulty. So I'll keep an eye on that. That's interesting. But anyway, this is how they come. Let me just put that one over here, so I know that's the one I need to check on. So here's one that I got out before, and this is the riser. So I'm sure you've seen these before, you probably know how they work, but maybe you don't. If this is the first time you're seeing a riser being used for a graphics card. So essentially it's just a little card with some capacitors. This one has 8 capacitors. That's, by the way, a way of showing a good quality riser. It'll have plenty of caps on it. You've got a 6-pin connector there, and then this is your little locking mechanism. So essentially make sure that's open before you try and fit the card, and then you line up the slot and then it goes in, just like you would do if you were putting it into the PCIe slot on a motherboard for a computer build, any gaming build or whatever. And that's your 16X slot there. So this is one that's already on a riser for you, so you can see how it fits. And then that's the little locking mechanism there. You just make sure you've slid that across once you've got it installed, and then from there it's ready to be positioned onto your frame, and it just sits like that. So obviously you can space them out however you want to put them. So there's only 6 cards going on here, so there'll be plenty of space. And then the cables going from the back. One thing to note with these cards, there's plenty of room for getting a finger and thumb in there for fitting the 6-pin connector, so that's really good. Otherwise, sometimes what you've got to do is actually fit the connector first. Otherwise, you just don't have enough space to get in there to engage the little locking clasp. So that's that. We'll get them onto the frame and then we'll come back to the video. Cheers. Here's the back of the box, just FYI. Didn't show that before. I was going to say it's just a little thing, but if you've got the space for it, consider keeping all the boxes for your graphics cards and all the original packaging, because one day if this crypto thing goes tits up, I don't think it will, but if it did, you can sell the graphics cards to gamers or something maybe. And if you've got the original box and original packaging, it'll make it easier to ship, and it will make it worth more. Anyone who collects anything will always tell you that anything is worth more in the original packaging, the original box. So it's just a little tip for you guys. Often we just throw all the packaging out, don't we, and don't think much about it, but that might be worth considering. Okay, that's the cards all laid out. Got the risers on them, ready to go on the frame. But just while I remember, I was just going to mention the risers come with these. These are a SATA connector, and you've probably seen it before if you're watching my other videos, but these are junk. You don't want to use these for powering the cards. I don't know why they come with the risers, they just do. And you can just tell from how they're made. They're just flimsy and thin, and these little tiny connections, fine for SATA devices, but not any good for this. So just throw those in the rubbish. Don't be tempted to use them. You don't want to have a fire or anything like that. The issue is that they're only rated for about 45 watts, and the risers can draw about 75. So clearly they could be overloaded. Okay, we'll get the cards on the frame. Okay, the cards are all on the frame. Looks pretty sick, actually. They've got kind of a smoked chrome to the front fascia there. But yeah, they look pretty neat. Got the power supply stuck down, sits there well. I'm missing the RAM. That's coming soon. Can't really do much without that. And just about to start connecting up some of the cables. So this is obviously a modular ATX. What's good about that is you can just use the cables that you need. So with a build like this, where the power for the cards is going to come from the server power supply, don't have to have a whole bunch of cables hanging out of here that would have to tie up and just make a big old mess. You know, like when you get a power supply that doesn't have the option to just plug them in, and they just come out in a big bundle here like that. They tend to be a little bit cheaper, but it just not quite as neat and tidy. So yeah, power cables to go on, then the CPU cable's got to go on, and then we can start hooking up the riser cables to the riser cards and the cables to the graphics cards. Fantastic, we're getting there. That's the cards installed and all wired up now. You can see how I've done the USB connections, and I actually had to move the cards over to the right there just because of the length of the cables that are coming from the HP server 1200 watt power supply. So you can see there's enough on that 12 connection board to do the cards and the risers, so that's what we're going to try. And then of course the ATX is just supplying the motherboard at this stage. Got the RAM installed there as well now, and yes, we're ready to put it over onto the test bench, plug in a monitor, keyboard, mouse, and get this thing fired up for the first time. Actually, before I put it on the test bench and power the rig up, these fans just arrived. So I'm going to get these installed actually. So these are the same little chassis fans that I've used before. They are called, here you go, if you can see that, they are Easy DIY Fab, and I just get them off Amazon, from Amazon. I think they're about 40 bucks or something like that. And they're RGB fans, ARGB. They run off a little SATA cable, get a remote, and they have a control hub. So if you want to, you can plug them into the motherboard if it supports it, and it'll synchronize with all the lighting effects on the motherboard and all that kind of thing. But do you need them? Well, that's a good question. The rigs run just fine without them. I've noticed it makes a difference of about 1 or 2 degrees, and that's when you have them running at full speed. If you slow them down a bit, maybe makes a difference of about 1 degree to the temperature of the cards. So I guess it would depend on your on the ambient temperatures. It's quite cool in the room here where I have my rigs. If you were in a warmer climate and the room was quite hot, they would probably make more of a difference then, because it's going to just get that air moving out from between the cards, from between the graphics cards. So if that was the case, then yeah, you definitely probably need them. But if you've got a nice cool room, you've got air conditioning running, something like that, perhaps you could consider them optional. But that's okay, I like to have them and they look pretty cool, so I'm going to get them installed on this rig now, and then I will come back to the video. Cheers. Okay, so that's the fans all fitted. It was actually a bit of a mission. I should have taken the cards off, but I tried to do it with the cards on, and you got to route all the cables, of course, but that's okay, so it's done now. So just 5 fans for this little frame, and what I did was I just neatly tried to tuck the cables up underneath there, just cable tied them back, and that should work just fine. Just tied them all up there so nothing gets into the fan, of course, on the PSU. Bundled up the SATA connection at the back, so that's where the controller for the fans plugs in. Just uses a little SATA interface, so you've got to plug it into the back of the modular power supply. And then so at the moment that ATX power supply is purely connected to the motherboard, so it's controlling the motherboard and the CPU. You can see it's plugged in there to the 24-pin ATX slot, and then you can probably see just down the back there the 8-pin CPU connector as well. And so the idea there is that that power supply will take care of all the components on the motherboard, and then the 1200 watt server power supply will provide power for all of the GPUs and the risers. So you can see there, basically I've got all the risers connected via splitters, and then the cards connected. But obviously there's still plenty of power available from the ATX power supply and from the server power supply. To be honest, I've worked it out, these cards are going to use about 135 watts each, so there should be plenty of power available. And obviously I've still got a space for 2 more cards, so what I'll probably end up doing when I've saved some pocket money is I'll get another couple of cards, or maybe just 1 card. I might get something a bit bigger, like a 3080 Ti or something like that, just to have a play with, and that'll bump the hash rates up for this rig as well. And yeah, that'll be something fun to muck about with, so keep an eye out for that in a future video maybe. Alright, so we'll get this over onto the test bench, connect it up, and this time we'll get it up and running, hopefully. Okay, so that's everything plugged in. The ATX is plugged in, HDMI, internet, keyboard, mouse. Got power to the server power supply. So what we've got to do with the dual power supplies, you can get a breakout board for the server power supply that has a little Molex cable that you connect to the ATX at one of the outputs, one of the Molex outputs from the ATX power supply, and then that'll synchronize them. And that's a pretty good idea if you can get a hold of one of those, because then all you gotta do is turn on the one ATX, power on the motherboard, and both power supplies will come on and go off together. But I haven't got that. It's no big deal. It just means what you want to do is turn on, there's a little tiny switch at the back. We turn that on, and obviously you want to turn on the second power supply first, in this case the one that's connected to all the cards. That way all the cards and all the risers are active when the motherboard comes up with the processor and everything. That way the system can detect everything because it's all powered on. So we turn on the ATX, and then we turn on the motherboard. Disco fans are working, that's good. And here we go. As long as I've connected everything back up right, we should boot up into Windows. Now it's nice and quiet at the minute, but it won't stay like that for long. Once we get mining, you'll see just how much louder these server power supplies are. They are quite a bit louder. But these cards are pretty cool, I thought. So they've got the LED lights. Don't know how well the camera's picking that up. You can see them changing colours at the back. Going pink, yellow, green. That's pretty cool. Alright, yep, we've booted up, we're into Windows. So I'll show you the settings that I've been playing around with for Ravencoin. So I'll fire up MSI Afterburner, and I apologise for trying to hold the camera steady for you guys. I will get a screen recorder sorted out. So we've got plus 100 core clock, and we've got plus 1000 memory, power limited to 80%. So remember, this is Ravencoin. It does need core clock, and it does need a bit more power than what you would use for Ethereum mining. Got the temp limit set at 80. That shouldn't be a problem. Fan is just left at auto, and I'm using the nano pool. And let's have a look. So here essentially you've just got the location of your T-Rex miner. So this is T-Rex as well. If you've seen my other builds, you'll know that's my preferred mining tool. It's just because I know it now and it seems to work good and be pretty reliable. Core power is the algorithm that Ravencoin uses, and then this is where you put your preferred server for the pool according to what's closest to you. So this is the AU pool, so that's just across in Australia, and that's the closest for me. So you really want to go for the closest one, just because you want to keep that latency down, and then you'll get less stale shares and less connection issues. And then you have the address for your wallet. So that's got to be, obviously that's got to be the correct address for your wallet for the token that you're mining. So that's got to be your Ravencoin address. And then the syntax that applies for this particular pool, nano pool, is you have your address and then dot the name of your rig. So you can call it anything. You can call it Bob, Graham, whatever you fancy. I've just got Raven rig there for now. And then -P, that's normally if you need a password. In this case it's just X. And then the intensity. So the intensity is the amount of system resources that you're going to allocate to mining for the computer. So by default it's 20. I normally find bumping it down to about 18, 19, something like that just lets the computer run a little bit better with Windows. And that's that. So then we want to run it as an administrator. You actually don't have to, I don't think, for this particular pool, because you haven't really had to specify any core clock. We're not locking the core clock or anything like that, but I'm just in the habit of doing it anyway. And then if all's working well, it should run through a couple of detection cycles. It'll detect the cards, and then provided it's happy, you'll start to see some hash rates. So this is where it's just detecting all the GPUs, and you'll start seeing some hash rates pop up, and then you'll be away. There we go. We've already got some shares. So we're getting 23.17 at the higher end, 23.08 at the bottom end, and that'll vary a little bit as it runs through different cycles. It might do a little bit better than that once it's all fired up. And there you go. So it's still nice and quiet, but if I come back in 5-10 minutes after it's been mining, that power supply will be making a right old racket. They're not too bad. If you were working at your desk right next to your miner like I am sometimes here, it might get a bit annoying. But I'm surrounded by them now. So this is that Ethereum 1660 build. If you didn't see that build, that was in one of the earlier videos. You're welcome to go check that out, of course. 12 cards on there, and that's been doing really well. Rock solid, no dramas. Alright, so I think that's about it, guys. I hope that was useful, and I'll get another couple of cards on there, and then I might update the video at another time. So yeah, you can be confident that using one of those 4:1 USBs works fine. You don't need an expensive motherboard. It's just a little cheap little Prime, Asus Prime gaming motherboard. Server power supplies, pick those up off eBay, or if you want to, you can get them from Parallel Miner, and he also sells the breakout boards, and he sells good quality cables. That might definitely be worth a look if he's got anything in stock and he's in your area. The fans are just from Amazon. There's tons to choose from on there. This is a Corsair power supply I had left over from another build, and you get those from any PC store. One of the big PC stores here in New Zealand is called PB Tech. That's where I got that from, and that's where the cards came from as well. So again, those were Gigabit GeForce RTX 3060s, and you'll get about between 22 and 23 megahash on those on Ravencoin. Sweet. Alright, everyone, take care. Thanks heaps for watching my video. Really appreciate it. If it was useful to you, give me a like. That would be awesome. And if you want to see more videos, subscribe. The next video I'm going to be doing is going to be here. I'll give you a heads up. We'll just walk around here, and it'll be another build with one of these super basic. You've probably seen them before. They're very popular. I should have got this out beforehand, shouldn't I? one of these guys. So that's one of these little riserless motherboards, and it comes with the CPU already on it, the RAM already on it, and yeah, gonna have a go with that. This is a pretty budget way of doing a mining build. We'll see how that goes, see what kind of cards we can get working on it. Not sure if I'm going to do it riserless or not. I think they'd be too close together, but obviously you can just use risers like you would any other build. A bit longer though, so as you can see, if you use it on a standard size rig, a bit tough to fit an ATX power supply in there, so I'll have to sort something out with that. Maybe get a larger frame, or might even build up something custom. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, tune in if you wanna see that build. It'll be coming up soon. Here we go. I'll head back over here because we can hear the server power supply is ramping up a bit now, and you get a bit more of an idea of the volume. Still not too bad. It'll get louder than that. Alright guys, you take care. Whatever you're doing, look after yourselves and your families, and happy mining. Hey guys, okay, bonus footage. The Ravencoin rig's been running now for a few days, and everything's been doing really well. Really stable, getting pretty good hash rates, I think, about 22 to 23. These are the settings. I played around with a bit to see if I could just wind the power back a bit, but no, 135 watts per card is what I've ended up settling on. If I go any lower than that, start losing significant hash rates. So it looks like that's going to be about as efficient as I can get them. If anyone else out there's got the same cards and they've managed to do better, then please put it in the comments below. That would be awesome. But yeah, so I thought I would show you the volume of the server power supply. It's actually really not that bad, and it might be a coincidence, but I think fitting the chassis fans has actually made it a bit quieter. I don't know, it doesn't seem to make sense, I know, but perhaps it's just cooled the cards down and so they're running more efficiently, and so the server power supply is running more efficiently. I don't know, but it does definitely seem to be quieter than when I had it running previously. So anyway, yeah, so that's all good, but I thought I'd show you the power draw at the wall, because there was something interesting I noticed purely by coincidence. This is the outlet here. You see we're drawing 980 watts. Okay, so you've got to take about 50 off that for the monitor, because the monitor is plugged into that circuit, and that draws about 50 watts, I think. And if we come over here, you may remember this is the Ethereum rig that I did last build. There's a video of that up on my channel if you want to check that out. But this has got 12 1660 super cards running, mining Ethereum, and check it out. This is the 980 watts. So purely coincidentally, 12 cards mining Ethereum, albeit a 16 series card, not a 30 series card, and 6 cards mining Ravencoin, same power draw. So that's purely by coincidence, but it got me thinking, probably something that would be quite interesting for an upcoming video is to compare the profitability of these two. So we could do it on a couple of different levels. Obviously the 12 cards in this rig cost more than the 6 cards in this rig, but the power draw is about the same. So what would happen if I were to put a couple more cards in this rig and bring the total spend of the Ravencoin rig up to the same as the total spend of the Ethereum rig, and then compare the two? Which would be most profitable? that might be quite an interesting video. Or just purely looking at it from a amount of current that's being drawn by both, about equal, and the hash rates that we have currently, which is proving to be the most profitable. So that might be a good idea for an up and coming video. You guys let me know what you think. If you think that'd be interesting, I can make a video like that, and we can break down all the costs, and we can see how it's gonna compare. Anyway guys, so that is the end of the video now. It's been a bit of a long one, but I hope it's been useful. So if you haven't already, subscribe if you want to, give me a like if you want to, or certainly ask a question, put a comment down below, and I'll do what I can to answer that for you. Thanks you guys, take care, bye.